Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Cohn. I'm the Vice President of Broadcasting, Marketing, and Programs here at NCMA Boston. And I'm so happy to have this gentleman here with us. This is probably going to be one of the most important and impactful talks that we are going to have at the March workshop this year. Managing risk in the ever-changing world of the Trump administration's executive orders and spending priorities. I'm joined by Mr. Chad Braley. He is the CEO and managing partner at Capital Edge Consulting. Chad, welcome, and thanks for taking a few minutes.
Adam, thanks for having me. Really looking forward to the event next week, and especially to the session. You know, I can tell you what I might want to talk about today, but that could all change tonight. So we may have...
No kidding. So I'm recording this on March 4th before President Trump's, I guess you want to call it a mock State of the Union, because it's not after the first full year, his
Right.
joint address to Congress. So yeah, we could see a lot of other things change. So it's like I've been telling everybody, Chad, if you have questions about stuff going on, come to the event, because we have folks like yourself and a lot of other heavy hitters. If you have questions, please come with the questions. Come take a little bit of a day off of work. Come network with your colleagues. Get out of the office for a bit. And please, if your company has questions, bring them to the workshop. We want to meet all of you where you're at with you, your jobs, and your companies. We are here to help. So, Chad, let's just get right into it.
Let's do it.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm pretty boring, so this will be short. Chad Braley, as you, great intro, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
CEO and founder at Capital Edge Consulting. So Capital Edge this is our 15th year in business, and our focus, right, is all of the attendees at this conference, right, helping companies and individuals do business with the United States government and navigate that compliance landscape, which is obviously changing rapidly from, literally on a daily basis right now. So, I'm a contracts, compliance, accounting kind of nerd. So, I get pretty geeked up about some of this stuff, but I think it's going to be, a great session. I echo your words, Adam, in terms of like, let's get in person. Let's talk about this stuff, right? I can't tell you I've got all the answers, because I don't even know what the problem's going to be next week, because it's a different challenge and it's a different change. But, I've actually spent my entire career in the government contracting space kind of by accident. I was fortunate enough to have some opportunities coming out of college, and went to work for this small firm that did government contract consulting. I didn't know what that meant, and got into that, and then eventually started Capital Edge. So hobby wise, I'm a little bit of a sneakerhead on a minimalist scale. I'm a pilot, actually, as one of my
cool.
And I'm a little bit of a basketball junkie. So primarily college, but getting a little bit more into the NBA. So those are maybe my fun facts, if you will.
So I just have to make sure you're actually going to show up and not be watching any of the NCAA tournament, because if you are, please take me with you. We're going to go into one of the rooms and we're just going to put on the NCAA tournament.
We're going to stream it and do the four games at one time. I love it.
That sounds good to me. All right. So what got you into your field? You told us a little bit about, you have that background in the government space, how you started Capital Edge. Just everyone's got a story of how they just happen to come into government contracting. What's yours?
Well, like I said, I was fortunate to have some a few good opportunities coming out of college in this kind of this boutique government contract consulting firm. Again, I didn't know what that meant, right? And they offered me a job there, and there were several alumni from where I went to school. So it felt like, a small kind of niche group. And, once I got in, I didn't, when I talk about it today, 20 plus years later, they're like, well, what do you do? And I'm like, well, the government buys everything, right? Everything, like Medicare, getting your Medicare claim process is a government contract, right? Building the Joint Strike Fighters. And so one of the things that's always made me very passionate about this business and my interest in it is all of the things that these amazing organizations, both primarily domestically, but also abroad, do for our country, for our warfighter, right, and keeping people safe. And I've always just kind of been amazed with the kind of what I call the economy of government, right, and all that comes with it. And so that's been kind of my passion. I tell you a story that I've told the story 1,000 times. One of my I was probably 2 years out of college, and I'm down in Arizona for a meeting with a client. And, we sign in and do all the badging stuff, and we're walking down the hallway, and the hallway is full of pictures. And every picture is a fighter pilot who had ejected using the ejection seat that company made. And every single one of them said, "Thank you for saving my life."
That is awesome.
And
I
I was
love
like,
that.
this is amazing. Like, this is really cool. So I've been pretty passionate about it ever since.
I love it. All right, well, let's switch gears just a little bit here to your session topic. Again, managing risk in the ever-changing world of the Trump administration's executive orders and spending priorities. We're taking politics out of this, folks. We are here to help you, regardless of what Chad and I may think or what anyone else thinks about what the Trump administration is doing. At the end of the day, these EOs are literally affecting a lot of federal workers. They're affecting everyone on the way down to even private industry. You could have, I used to work at MIT a bit. I was in the Office of Sponsored Programs. And I don't even want to imagine what happens if NIH just poof, all those contracts go away. Like, there is life-saving work. There is work for the military being done. So with all this being said, Chad, what specifically interests you about this topic? Because we're not talking about data rights. We're not talking about any other topic. Like, this is very unique. So what kind of interests you about this particular topic?
Well, and to your point, Adam, you got to take the politics out of it, right? What's happening is happening, and we have to react to it, and we have to deal with
Correct.
it. And the thing is, from a contractor community standpoint, right, there are rules and regulations that govern that, and many would argue maybe they're not necessarily being followed in this process. But what I'm most concerned about is making sure that our clients and other contractors are at least putting themselves in the best position to get paid for the work that they've done, right? And to make sure they can capture, and they're not, when you're losing contracts, you're not going to be made whole in total, right? But utilize the guidance that's there and the expertise available and the regulations, right? To make sure that you're getting everything that you are entitled to under the law, right? And so I think, we've got, I've been on the phone with, so many different contractors, and, we've got clients that are revenue is going to go down $500 million this year, right? But they're laying off, people, and how do I, mass severance costs and things that were never even predicted and predicated. And then you have, some of these others, you got to unfreeze the funds and you got to pay people. Well, and the government's kind of saying, and this is all, that we've got injunctions, and, I'll let the attorneys get into the technical legal piece of it. But, I don't know that the government's saying, right now, and this is kind of where I think industry is kind of paralyzed. Well, are you going to pay us? Or are you not going to pay us? Well, legally they have to pay.
Correct.
They don't necessarily have to pay maybe as timely as you would like. And what are the impacts on those organizations? Just think about it from a straight up cash flow perspective, and really kind of getting these, talking through some of these strategies, because it's different if you have a contract versus a grant or a cooperative agreement, right? And then also
100%.
What's the future landscape look like, right? You already alluded to it with NIH. And so, NIH is saying, well, now we're only going to reimburse indirect costs up to 15%, right? And I don't know MIT's rate off the top of my head, but I know they published Princeton's and they published Harvard's and they published 67%, 65%.
Like university is just one example, but what about a small business? I think back to what Moderna did when the pandemic started. How much of their work was grants? What happens to that kind of work if a lot of this grant money goes away? Or what could happen, on the contract side? Say you get a cost reimbursable contract from somewhere in the government, and if this starts going away, these are very real things that people are either concerned about, like you mentioned, losing a ridiculous amount of money. So everything you said kind of already ties into the big question, the $1 million question. What can people expect to learn during this session? Because there is so much going on. Give us 3 bullet points.
Well, I think one would be kind of an update, right? We're talking today on March 4th, right? We're going to be talking in person on March 13th, right? There could be a lot that happens in between then, and between having a full-time job, you almost can't stay on top of all this stuff. So we're going to do our best to kind of bring the high level summary of this is where we sit today, because some of this stuff is going through the court system, right? There's some new things being filed, so we might have a little bit more insight. We're starting to see a couple of the agencies start to pick up and pay a little bit. So just current events, what do we think the most important things are? Secondly would be what you should do to prepare, right? And because if you're in this bucket of, if you're a not-for-profit with, primarily grants, what do you need to do versus the contractor, right? And many of the things are similar, but they are different instruments, and they do have different, regulatory requirements. And then so I think it's, what's going on? How do you protect your organization to the maximum extent practical? And then, maybe we have it a little bit more in the crystal ball of kind of where things are going, not only from a timeline perspective, but where companies should be focused, and or where the administration's focused, because they're going to cut money, right? And USAID was almost kind of low hanging fruit, and you've heard other people say this. I said it in the beginning. It's something that you cut all that money, and it does have impact domestically with some jobs, but it has much more foreign impact, and you don't see that because we're sitting over here in the U.S., right? We're not seeing the thousands being, losing jobs over there, or, some very good work just stopping, right? So how do we, but some of that is also going to come back, right? Defense industrial base. We all know that we need more things manufactured in the United States. So there's going to be opportunity, I think, in this chaos, and we'll try to, highlight some of that as well. Although it probably doesn't feel like opportunity at the moment. It probably just feels like a lot of pain and suffering for a lot of organizations, unfortunately. So what's going on? How to protect yourself? Where do we see things going?
I love it. Any other last minute thoughts you want to share with everybody before I end this interview and get us on out of here? We are so close to the March workshop.
Just looking forward to it. Looking forward to, seeing people in person and taking a number of different questions. And like I said, I don't know we're going to have all the answers because we don't necessarily know, where everything's going. The car is making different turns, on a daily basis. But bring it all there. We'll happy to spend time afterwards. If I'm hopeful we've got a big group, and I'm hopeful that we get a lot of questions, and we probably won't be able to get them all. But we're happy to hang out and answer those for as long as people are interested in doing that. And just get the people the best information and answers that we have at the time based on the facts of today. And those may be different by the time we get there next Thursday.
It is very true. Well, Chad, thank you so much for taking the time to even do this interview. Again, to me, this is one of the most important topics we're going to be talking about the entire workshop, because, again, we have plenty of topics to get you all your training. But this topic, if it's affecting you or your company, please convince your manager. If you're a worker, if you're a manager or director, send as many people as you can to this. We're going to be on site at Bentley University March 13th. We have an online component. If you want to come for just certain pieces and you have proposals, we're very receptive to that. Please come and ask your questions. Chad's going to be there. We got people that are monitoring the chat rooms in the back during all the sessions as well. Please come and ask questions. We'll see you at Bentley University or online on March 13th. Thank you, Chad.
Look forward to it.